The great hall of the Galactic Council shone with a blue light that made the skin of the hundreds of alien leaders shimmer. High above them all, on a floating platform, stood Zix. He was tall and thin with three large eyes that blinked at different times. His hand shook as he touched the control panel in front of him. "Respected leaders," Zix began, his voice soft but clear through the hall's speakers. "My report on the planet Earth must be heard. The creatures called humans are unlike any species we have found before." On the large screen behind him, images of Earth appeared. Oceans, mountains, and cities filled with tall buildings. Then came pictures of humans doing everyday things, working, playing sports, and building machines. "Earth is what we call a death world," Zix continued. "A planet with extreme weather, many natural disasters, and dangerous animals. The humans did not just survive there. They became the top species." The aliens in the crowd began to whisper to each other. Some made clicking sounds of disbelief. Humans can live in very hot and very cold places. They can go days without water. Their bodies heal from injuries that would kill most of us. And most worrying of all, they seem to enjoy fighting and taking risks. The largest alien in the room, Grand Counselor Veshna, raised one of his four arms. The room went silent at once. "Xenobiologist Zix, Veshna said, his voice deep and full of pride. "My people, the Arctians, have ruled this part of the galaxy for 1,000 years. We have met thousands of new species. None have ever been a real threat to us." Veshna turned to face the other council members. "The Arctian Dominion will send a ship to this Earth. We will study these humans and decide if they are worth adding to our empire." Zix three eyes blinked rapidly. "Grand Counselor, I strongly advise against this. My research shows that humans react with extreme force when threatened. We should stay away from Earth until we know more." Laughter spread through the hall. Veshna smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Your concern is noted, but denied," Veshna said. "This council meeting is over." The aliens began to leave the hall. No one noticed when Zix sent a secret message to the small group of Mithridians sitting in the back of the room. The Mithridians, with their round bodies and large eyes, had nearly been wiped out by the Arctians long ago. They knew what it was like to be seen as weak. As the hall emptied, the leader of the Mithridians looked at the image of Earth still on the screen. "Perhaps," she said quietly to her assistants, "we should listen to Zix warning. Perhaps these humans could be friends, not subjects." Across the galaxy, on the blue planet called Earth, humans went about their daily lives. They did not know that they had just been discussed by the most powerful group in the galaxy. They did not know that a ship was being prepared to visit them. They did not know that everything was about to change. #First Contact Disaster. 3 months later, a massive silver ship appeared in the sky above New York City. It was shaped like an arrow and was longer than 10 football fields. People in the streets stopped and stared up at it. Some ran in fear. Others took videos with their phones. Inside the Arctian ship called Eternal Dominance Captain Xorvex watched the humans through the viewing screen. He was tall with gray-blue skin and 4 arms. His yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the small creatures below. "Primitive beings," he said to his crew. "Our computers say they will surrender within hours. They know they cannot fight us." The Arctian crew laughed. They had done this many times before on many worlds. First, they showed their power. Then, the locals gave up. It was always the same. "Prepare the meeting room," Captain Xorvex ordered. "Bring their leaders to us." 2 hours later, 6 humans sat at a large round table on the ship. There were 3 men and 3 women from different countries. They represented Earth's biggest nations. Across from them sat Captain Xorvex and his officers. "People of Earth," Xorvex began, "your planet is now part of the Arctian Dominion. We rule over 300 worlds. Your lives will continue, but you will now work for us and follow our laws." The humans looked at each other. A woman with black hair and a military uniform stood up. She was Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. "Thank you for your visit," Admiral Chen said calmly. "But we must decline your offer. We suggest you leave our solar system now. We can pretend this was all a misunderstanding." The Arxians made high-pitched laughing sounds. This was exactly what their computers had predicted. The locals always tried to act brave at first. Captain Xorvex smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "You misunderstand, human. This is not an offer. It is." A loud alarm cut off his words. An Arxian officer rushed into the room. "Captain, the humans have launched weapons at us." Xorvex jumped up. "Impossible. Their missiles cannot harm our shields." On screens around the room, the humans could see what was happening. Dozens of missiles were rising from different points on Earth, all heading toward the alien ship. "You should have listened to Zix Kaldar," Admiral Chen said quietly. "Who?" Vex demanded, confused. "We intercepted his report 3 months ago," another human explained. "We've been preparing ever since." The first missiles hit the ship. The room shook. The Arxians looked shocked. "Our shields are failing," an officer shouted. "They're using different frequencies for each missile." Admiral Chen stood up. "We studied your technology from the moment you entered our system. Your shields are impressive, but not perfect." More explosions rocked the ship. Emergency lights flashed red. "This is not possible," Captain Xorvex whispered. "You are a pre-space civilization." "We prefer to be underestimated," Admiral Chen replied. The human delegation was escorted to escape pods and returned safely to Earth. The massive Arxian ship tried to flee, but it was too damaged. It exploded over the Atlantic Ocean, breaking into thousands of pieces that fell into the sea. Before it was destroyed, the ship sent one final message to the Arxian homeworld. The humans knew we were coming. They were waiting for us. 6 months after the Arxian ship was destroyed, the people of Earth were still on high alert. Military bases around the world stayed on 24-hour watch. Scientists studied the pieces of alien technology recovered from the ocean. Then, one quiet Tuesday morning, another alien ship appeared. This one was much smaller than the Arxian vessel. It was round and glowed with a soft green light. It stopped high above the United Nations building in New York. A message came from the ship in perfect English. "We come in peace and friendship. We are Mithridians. We wish to speak with your leaders." Within hours, the UN Security Council gathered. The world's most powerful leaders sat around a large table, waiting. When the doors opened, 3 small aliens walked in. They were about 4 feet tall with round bodies, large eyes, and 4 short arms. Their skin was pale purple. The alien in front bowed. "I am Ambassador Lithera of the Mithridian Coalition. Thank you for meeting with us." UN Secretary General Okoro stood up. "Welcome to Earth. Why have you come?" Lithera's large eyes blinked slowly. "To warn you, the Arxians will return, and not with 1 ship. They will bring hundreds. They have never been defeated before. Your victory has made them angry." The room went silent. Admiral Chen, who was also present, leaned forward. "Why should we trust you?" Another alien warned his council about us. "Called us dangerous." "Yes, Zix Kaldar." Lithera nodded. "He was right. You are dangerous to those who threaten you. But unlike the Arxians, you understand something important: when to stop fighting." Lithera touched a small device on her wrist. A 3D image appeared above the table, showing the destroyed Arxian ship. "You could have launched thousands of weapons," she continued. "Instead, you used just enough to stop the threat. You returned their diplomats safely to their escape pods. The Arxians would have destroyed your entire city in revenge." Admiral Chen studied the small alien carefully. "What exactly are you offering?" "Alliance," Lithera said. "We have technology, better shields, faster communication, weapons that can travel through space. We can help you prepare. And what do you want in return? Secretary General Okoro asked. The Arctians have ruled for too long. They have conquered many worlds, including our original homeworld. You are the first species to defeat them in battle. We believe you can help free those they have enslaved. The human leaders looked at each other. This was bigger than just defending Earth. It was about fighting for freedom across the galaxy. We'll need time to discuss this, Secretary General Okoro said finally. Lith-Era nodded. Of course, but not too much time. The Arctian war fleet is already preparing. 3 days later, after many long meetings, Earth made its decision. In a ceremony broadcast around the world, humans and Mithridians signed the first interspecies alliance treaty in Earth's history. The Mithridians would provide advanced technology. The humans would provide what they had perfected over thousands of years of conflict, strategy. As Lith-Era signed the document, she looked at Admiral Chen. The Arctians think they are coming to punish you. They do not realize they are walking into a trap. 8 months passed. With Mithridian help, humans worked day and night to prepare for the coming Arctian attack. They built defense stations on Mars and on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. They improved their weapons and ships. Far away, at the edge of the solar system, a fleet of Arctian warships appeared out of hyperspace. 27 massive ships, each 10 times larger than the first one that had come to Earth. They were dark gray with red lights and looked like giant spears. On the lead ship, Fleet Admiral Vexdoran stood tall and proud. He had 6 medals on his chest for winning battles across the galaxy. His gray-blue skin was darker than most Arctians, and his yellow eyes were cold. "Show me the human world," he ordered. A large screen lit up, showing the blue planet Earth. "Such a small place," Vexdoran said with a laugh. "And they think they can fight us." A younger officer approached him. "Admiral, we're picking up some strange energy readings from Mars and the moons of Jupiter." Vexdoran waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. "Probably just some primitive outposts. Focus on Earth. That's our target." The fleet moved forward, passing the outer planets of the solar system. They were confident. No pre-space travel civilization had ever defeated an Arctian fleet. As they approached Mars, alarm signals suddenly blared across all ships. "Energy spikes on Mars' surface," an officer shouted. Before Vexdoran could respond, hundreds of weapons fired from hidden bases on the red planet. The beams hit 3 Arctian ships at the same time. The ships exploded in bright flashes of light. "Impossible," Vexdoran shouted, his yellow eyes wide with shock. How did they build defenses so far from their homeworld? More alarms sounded. Now weapons were firing from the moons of Jupiter too. 2 more Arctian ships exploded. "Turn around," Vexdoran ordered. "We need to regroup." But as the fleet tried to retreat, they discovered more human defense stations hidden among the asteroids. There was nowhere safe to go. Back on Earth, in a deep underground command center, Admiral Chen and Lith-Era watched the battle on large screens. "How did your people build so much so quickly?" Lith-Era asked in amazement. Admiral Chen smiled. "When humans face a threat, we work together." Countries that were enemies shared their technology. Scientists worked around the clock. Construction teams built in shifts, 24 hours a day. On the screen, another Arctian ship exploded. "But the Arctians have attacked hundreds of worlds," Lith-Era said. "Why were they not ready for this?" "Because they don't understand humans," Admiral Chen explained. "We evolved as hunters who work best when faced with danger. Throughout our history, we fought our greatest battles with our backs against the wall." Lith-Era nodded slowly. "They thought they were setting a trap for you." "Yes," Admiral Chen agreed. "But we turned the entire solar system into a trap for them instead." In space, the remaining Arctian ships fought desperately. They had expected to find a single planet with minimal defenses. Instead, they found an entire solar system turned into a battlefield, with weapons they had never seen before. Fleet Admiral Vex Doran stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Half his fleet was already destroyed. "These cannot be humans," he whispered. "No species learns this fast." 6 months after the battle in the solar system, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. The Grand Hall was filled with representatives from many different alien species. There was tension in the air. The Arxian delegation was smaller than before. They sat stiffly, their yellow eyes angry. Grand Counselor Veshna looked tired and worried. Supreme Commander Drykor of the Arxian military stood to speak. He was taller than most Arxians, with scars on 2 of his forearms. "The situation has become serious," Drykor announced. "The humans are not fighting like normal enemies. They do not just defeat our ships. They humiliate us." He touched a control, and images appeared on the large screen. One showed an Arxian warship being pulled by human vessels, like a captured animal. Another showed human broadcasts being sent to planets under Arxian control, encouraging the local species to rebel. "The humans understand something we did not," Drykor continued. "War is not just about having better weapons. It is about breaking the enemy's will to fight." A tall, thin alien with green skin stood up. This was Talaver, an expert in how different species think. "The humans are using psychological warfare," Talaver explained. "They could have destroyed the ships they captured. Instead, they parade them as trophies. This sends a message to everyone watching. The Arxians can be beaten." Grand Counselor Veshna slammed his fist on the table. "What are you suggesting we do? Surrender to a primitive species?" Talaver's voice was calm. "The humans are not fighting to destroy the Arxians. They are fighting to free the worlds you have conquered. They have begun sharing your battle plans with every planet under your control. 17 of your subject worlds are now in open rebellion." The council room went silent. This was unprecedented. For thousands of years, the Arxian Dominion had ruled without challenge. "We must crush them completely," Veshna growled. "Destroy their planet. Make an example of them." Talaver shook his head. "You still don't understand. The humans have made copies of all their knowledge and culture. They have hidden these copies on the Mithridian worlds. Even if you destroyed Earth, their ideas would survive." The Arxian delegation stormed out of the council chamber in anger. As they left, other species began to whisper among themselves. For the first time in living memory, the greatest military power in the galaxy was losing a war, not because their weapons had failed, but because they had never faced an enemy who understood that information could be the strongest weapon of all. Back on the Mithridian homeworld, Admiral Chen sat with Lithara, watching a recording of the council meeting. "The Arxians still think this is only about ships and weapons," Admiral Chen said. "They don't see that we're fighting a different kind of war." Lithara nodded. "You are teaching the galaxy a new way to resist. The Arxians controlled through fear. You are spreading hope." Admiral Chen looked at a map of the galaxy, where 17 points of light now blinked green, worlds that had declared independence from the Arxian Dominion. "The Arxians warned the galaxy about humans," she said quietly. "They should have listened to their own warning." 1 year after the war began, the leaders of Earth met in the United Nations building in New York. They sat around a large table, looking at maps of the galaxy. "We cannot just defend forever," Admiral Chen said. "The Arxians are rebuilding their fleet. They will attack again." Ambassador Kazuo Tanaka from Japan shook his head. "But attacking their worlds directly would make us no better than them. We would be invaders, not defenders." The room grew quiet as everyone considered this problem. Then the president of the African Union, Amara Edayemi, stood up. "What if we don't attack their planets with weapons?" she suggested. "What if we attack with ideas instead?" And so a new plan was born. The humans and Mithridians called it First Strike Diplomacy. 2 weeks later, a small ship jumped through space and appeared near a planet called Arxia. This world was home to insect-like beings called the Trizi. They had been ruled by the Arxians for 300 years. The ship was not a warship. It was a diplomatic vessel with both humans and Mithridians on board. They sent a message to the planet. We come with truth and an offer of freedom. Before the Archean guards could stop them, the ship broadcast images across the planet. The Trizi saw videos of the Archean fleet being defeated. They saw other worlds that had already broken free. They heard messages from those free planets. Then the humans offered something the Trizi had never expected: knowledge. The ship sent down plans for weapons, shields, and communication systems. They taught the Trizi how to build their own defenses. You have been told you need the Archeans to protect you, the human ambassador said in the broadcast. This is a lie. You can protect yourselves, and we will help you. 2 days later, when an Archean defense fleet arrived at Arxia II, they found their former slaves operating advanced defense platforms. The human Mithridian ship was already gone, moving to the next world on their list. Back on Earth, Secretary of State Ramirez explained the strategy to reporters. In chess, you don't have to capture every piece to win. Sometimes you just need to threaten the king. The Archeans had built their empire on making other species feel weak and dependent. The humans were teaching these species how to be strong and independent. Instead of destroying the Archean military directly, they were breaking apart the foundation it stood on. Within a month, 5 more worlds had declared independence. The Archeans could not stop the spread of information. For every world they sent ships to control, 3 more would rebel behind their backs. Grand Counselor Veshna met with his advisors in a secure room on the Archean homeworld. How do we fight this? He demanded. They are not attacking our ships anymore. They are attacking our power. An older Archean advisor spoke up. Perhaps we should have listened to Zix Kaldar's warning. These humans do not fight like any species we have met before. Veshna stared at the map showing all the worlds they were losing. They are turning our empire against us without firing a single shot. 2 years into the conflict, Zix Kaldar, the Thraxian xenobiologist who had first warned the council about humans, received a surprising invitation. The humans asked him to visit Earth. When his ship landed in New Delhi, a tall woman with dark skin and bright eyes was waiting for him. Welcome to Earth, Dr. Zix Kaldar. I am Dr. Amara Patel. I'll be your guide during your stay. As they walked through the busy streets of the city, Zix Kaldar's 3 eyes looked everywhere, trying to take in all the sights. There were tall, shining buildings next to old temples. Rich people in expensive cars drove past poor people pulling carts. Street vendors sold food while giant screens showed news about the war. Your world is full of opposites, Zix Kaldar said to Dr. Patel. You have amazing technology, but some of your people still live without it. You talk about peace, but you are very good at war. How do you make sense of these contradictions? Dr. Patel smiled. We don't try to resolve them. Living with contradictions, that's the human condition. One of our poets said we contain multitudes. We can hold opposite ideas in our minds at the same time. This conversation became very important a month later when the Archeans tried a new strategy. They began broadcasting images and videos across the galaxy, showing the worst parts of human history. They showed wars, slavery, pollution, and cruelty. See these savages, the Archean broadcasts said. Do you want them bringing their violence to your worlds? But the plan didn't work as the Archeans had hoped. The humans responded in a way no one expected. They admitted everything. Ambassador Maria Martinez stood before the Galactic Council and spoke directly. Yes, we have done terrible things in our history. We've had wars, hurt each other, damaged our planet. But we've also worked to fix our mistakes. We've fought to end slavery, to create equality, to protect our environment. We don't claim to be perfect. We claim to be growing and learning. This honesty surprised the many species watching. The Archeans had always presented themselves as perfect rulers who never made mistakes. When they had problems, they hid them. The humans openly admitted their flaws and talked about how they were trying to do better. This message spread quickly across the galaxy. Many species who had lived under Archean rule for centuries began to see humans differently. The Archeans had tried to show human weakness, but instead showed their greatest strength, the ability to acknowledge mistakes and change. Back on Earth, Zix Kelder met with Admiral Chen. "I warned the Council that humans were dangerous," he said, "but I did not understand what makes you truly special. You do not hide your dark parts. You use them to grow." Admiral Chen nodded. "There's an old human saying, 'The fool thinks himself perfect. The wise person knows his weaknesses.'" Zix Kelder's 3 eyes blinked in understanding. "The Archeans think admitting faults shows weakness. You know it shows strength." "Yes," Admiral Chen replied. "And that's why we will win." 3 years after the conflict began, much had changed in the galaxy. 17 worlds that had once been part of the Archean dominion were now free. The Human-Mithridian alliance had grown to include 5 other alien species, but the Archeans still controlled many planets and were learning how to counter human strategies. In a secure meeting room deep under the United Nations building, Admiral Chen showed the world leaders a strange recording. "We've been receiving these signals for the past month," she explained. "They're coming from beyond Archean space, from a region no one has explored." On the large screen, patterns of light shifted and changed. There were no words, just complex mathematical sequences. "It's a language," said Professor Okafor, Earth's top expert in alien communication. "But unlike any we've seen before." The scientists had worked day and night to understand the message. Finally, they created a computer program that could translate it. The next day, a hologram appeared in the meeting room. It looked like a human, but kept changing its appearance. Sometimes a woman, sometimes a man, sometimes older, sometimes younger. "Greetings, humans," the hologram said. "We are the Synthesis. We have been watching your conflict with the Archeans. We find you fascinating." The world leaders looked at each other in surprise. The Synthesis explained that they were a post-biological intelligence, beings who had evolved beyond physical bodies. They lived as energy and information in space. "You fight in ways we do not understand," the hologram continued, "not just for resources or territory, but for ideas like freedom and self-determination. This is unexpected." President Adeyemi stood up. "What do you want from us?" she asked directly. The hologram smiled. "Knowledge exchange. You experience life differently than we do. Your art, your emotions, your conflicts, they follow patterns we cannot create ourselves. We offer our advanced technology in exchange for cultural sharing." The alliance was careful. The Synthesis had technology far beyond even the Archeans. Their offer seemed too good to be true. But after many discussions, they agreed to work together. The Synthesis provided new kinds of energy shields, faster-than-light communication, and weapons that could disable Archean ships without destroying them. In return, humans shared music, art, literature, and philosophy. What surprised everyone was how much the Synthesis valued human creativity. These super-advanced beings were fascinated by human stories, songs, and ideas. They couldn't understand why humans cried during sad movies or laughed at jokes, but they wanted to learn. When the Archeans discovered this new alliance, they were terrified. The Synthesis had always stayed away from galactic politics before. Now they were actively helping humans. Supreme Commander Dracor reported to the Archean leadership. The Synthesis are sharing technology that was thought to be impossible. They're helping the humans improve their ships and weapons. But strangest of all, they seem to admire the humans. Grand Counselor Veshna looked confused. "Admire them? Why?" "The humans have something the Synthesis want, but cannot create," Dracor explained. "Emotions, art, unpredictable thinking. For all their power, the Synthesis find humans fascinating because they are different." For the first time, Veshna felt real fear. The humans hadn't just found allies. They had found admirers among the most advanced beings in the galaxy. 5 years had passed since the Archeans first encountered humans. The Galactic Council chamber looked very different now. Where once the Arxian delegation had sat in the most prominent position, they now occupied a smaller seat on the side. Many formerly enslaved species now had their own seats and voting rights. At the center of the chamber stood a human woman, Ambassador Sophia Chen, Admiral Chen's daughter. She was tall and confident, wearing a simple blue uniform with the Earth symbol on one shoulder and the Alliance symbol on the other. The Sol Alliance proposes a new framework for galactic governance, she began, her voice clear and strong. One based not on power or technology, but on respect and cooperation. The council members listened carefully. The plan Ambassador Chen presented was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. All species would have equal voices, regardless of their technological level. No species could rule over another without consent, and a joint defense force would protect smaller worlds from future would-be conquerors. Grand Counselor Veshna stood up, his yellow eyes narrow with anger. This human wants to destroy thousands of years of order. The strong have always led the weak. This is the natural way of things. Ambassador Chen looked directly at him. Is it natural? Or just convenient for those already in power? History shows us that systems built on forcing others to obey eventually fall apart. Those built on working together last longer. A representative from a newly freed world spoke next. She belonged to a small, furry species called the Nith. For centuries, we were told we needed the Arxians to protect us from dangers in space. Now we know the biggest danger was the Arxians themselves. One by one, representatives from different worlds stood to support the human proposal. Even some of the older council members who had once sided with the Arxians now spoke in favor of change. Zix Kaldar watched from his seat with the Thraxian delegation. His 3 eyes blinked thoughtfully. His warning about humans had been both right and wrong. Yes, they were dangerous. But their danger wasn't in their capacity for violence. It was in their capacity to inspire others to change. The final vote was not even close. The new Galactic Charter passed with overwhelming support. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy would not be ruled by the strongest, but governed by agreement. As the council members filed out of the chamber, Zix Kaldar approached Ambassador Chen. 5 years ago, I warned the council about humans, he said. I called you dangerous. Ambassador Chen smiled. You were right. Yes and no, Zix Kaldar replied. I warned them about your weapons, your ability to survive harsh conditions, your love of conflict. I should have warned them about your ideas. Those were always your most powerful weapons. Outside the council chamber, representatives from dozens of worlds mingled together. Species that had been enemies for generations now talked peacefully. Worlds that had never had a voice were now being heard. Ambassador Chen looked out at them all. The Arxians thought they were the pinnacle of evolution, she said, but they stopped growing. They stopped changing. That was their biggest mistake. Zix Kaldar nodded. And the greatest human strength is that you never stop changing. 20 years had passed since the first contact between humans and the Arxians. Earth had become a hub of galactic diplomacy and trade. The Arxian Dominion had transformed into a confederation of equal worlds. The synthesis had built cultural centers on many planets, sharing technology while learning about art, music, and stories from different species. On the massive space station called Harmony, which orbited Earth, Admiral Helena Chen walked slowly along the observation deck. Now retired and in her 70s, she used a special walking device designed by the synthesis to help her move. Beside her walked Zix Kaldar, the Thraxian xenobiologist who had first warned the Council about humans. You warned them about us, Admiral Chen said, watching the ships arrive for the 20th anniversary celebration. You were right to do so. Zix Kaldar's 3 eyes blinked in a pattern that humans now knew meant amusement. I was both right and wrong, Admiral. I correctly identified your capacity for violence, but I failed to see your greater capacity for peace. Below them, beings from 67 different worlds moved through the main hall of the station. Former enemies now traded peacefully. Species who had been slaves for generations now governed themselves. At special stations throughout the hall, visitors could experience human culture, not as something strange, but as something valuable. The galaxy had become stuck, Zix Calder continued. The Arctians controlled through force. The synthesis evolved beyond physical concerns. Other species accepted their assigned places. It took humans, messy, complicated, wonderful humans, to show us another way. Admiral Chen smiled. We just did what humans have always done. Faced a threat, adapted, survived, and thrived, added Zix Calder. The warning about humans should have been a welcome instead. In the main hall, a new class of diplomatic cadets, 12 different species training together, took their oath. Their pledge, based on old human documents but adapted for all beings, echoed through the station. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all sapient beings are created equal, with certain rights that cannot be taken away. As they finished, applause filled the hall. Among those watching was a young Arctian. She was the granddaughter of Grand Counselor Veshna, who had once dismissed humans as primitives. Now she was studying human history and philosophy, hoping to help her people find a new path forward. Nearby stood a synthesis avatar, experiencing the emotions in the room. Though they still couldn't fully understand feelings like pride and hope, they valued them deeply. It's remarkable, the synthesis said to a human standing nearby. Your species nearly destroyed itself many times. You fought countless wars, yet you created a peace the galaxy had never known before. The human smiled. We had good teachers. Our failures taught us as much as our successes. On the observation deck, Admiral Chen and Zix Calder watched a ship from a newly discovered world dock at the station. Soon, another species would join the galactic community, not as subjects, but as equals. Do you ever regret warning the Council about us? Admiral Chen asked. Never, Zix Calder replied. The galaxy needed the warning, but more importantly, it needed you.